Hi, Henry Tribble here, going over the code for Anamalia Anarko. So, Anamalia Anarko is a multiplayer game made in Unity. It's an ability shooter with the potential for new classes to be added. So, we're going to start off by going over the multiplayer capabilities of the game. Starting off with the server browser. I do not have a second client open, but I'm going to show you roughly how it would work. So you start off and you have your little input field for your name if you wanted to create a name, and this is saved on the player's machines using player preferences. To join a game, you can either press quick play, which I'll go over in a second, or you can click server browser, and this will bring you over to this screen here, where you get an option to create a server, adjust how many players you want in that server, the game mode, and the map. There's only one map in the game right now, but it's all you'd have to do is create a new scene, and then you'd have the new map available here. Of course, then create a new room name. So if you don't, it's gonna tell you to name your room. So change it, and then you can create the game. Once you've done that, it'll create that game room listing, and it will create that server. You're greeted by the character select scene. There's only one character in the game so far, and this is the capybara. Um, if we were to open up a second client, you'd see the server pop up here. Um, Also, if you press quick play and there are no servers, it will create a room for you, which will be added to the server browser so people can join you. The way that works is, um, so once you open up the server create, let me open that up for you. There you go, room creator. Wait. Um, Once you open that up, you're gonna get all of this options, and it uses this room creator script, which we have over here, which essentially passes in to a function create and join room the options that your player has chosen. It also creates a hash table for custom properties like the amount of players in the server, the game mode, and the map. So we have a map key to add to the properties and the game mode key. Um, Other than that, it just creates a room. So this multiplayer game uses Photon. Um, so Photon is or Pun is a fairly streamlined multiplayer system for Unity. It's actually more for like chat rooms and stuff. But the Unity documentation is pretty good, and it is quite well implemented into Unity. So we have this create room option function even that we call in the Photon network, and it basically goes through, calls all these functions to create a room on their server. So once you've created this room, you are basically in a server that people can join. Let's open up some of the other. So a room is separate from a server. So if it were to if I were to show you like the hierarchy, you have the server, and then you have like a room within the server. So up here is the server, and the server's gonna be, for example, like EU or Southeast Asia or US. Um, and in that server, you then oops, you then have individual rooms. So server, room, room, room. So here we'll have each of our players' room, and so on and so forth. And they're going to be running each game mode that they've chosen themselves. So we start off by connecting to a server. We also have in this script a couple of simple functions like matchmaking. Matchmaking just joins a random room, and if there is no random room, it's gonna create one. It also checks that the game version is the correct, is all up to date, so players can't join games with different versions of the client and create a big mess. When you create a room, this is the create and join room without any overloads, without any arguments even. So it chooses just 8 max players, and a random level and a random game mode in rotation specifically. So for example, we can have game modes that are in test that aren't going to be automatically loaded into the game. That's why that's like that. So other than that, most of these are just pretty simple fallback and edge case situations, where they might not have. So, for example, when you matchmake and there are no rooms available, it's gonna call this on join random room failed, and then it's gonna create a room. So it's more seamless and it doesn't throw loads of errors everywhere. That's the basic matchmaking from the main menu. The room listing, retrieving rooms and putting them into this this rect transform. What's the Unity term for it? A scroll view. That's the one. So putting each. Let's open up the prefab. Putting each server into the rect transform was a little bit tricky. But essentially we're searching for all of the room infos. Sorry, no, we're searching for all of the rooms and retrieving the room info from each one. So let's have a look at the prefab. So where is it? Prefab, some resources. Alright. There you go. There it is. So here we have the room listing object that has all of the buttons and information on it ready to be filled in. So every time it finds a room, it's just going to instantiate it inside of this scroll rect. And we do similar thing in game as well. So if we go into quick play, I'll show this in more detail in a bit. But we have our name and we have our kills and our deaths. If I go and let's actually return to the main menu and make a sandbox server. And this will load a load of bots. Not really bots, more of like target mannequins for aim practicing. So when you hit them, see I've got 4 kills now, and if you were to load onto another client, it would firstly add their name to the menu, and it would also update all of their stats, their pings, their deaths. So I've just jumped into a spike pit, and you can see now I've got 4 kills and 1 death, and yeah. So let's have a look into how the game works inside of a round, more specifically. Right. So this is the level. I actually specifically, because there's very limited time to create the game, most of the blocks is more of a playground because I made all of these level pieces quite modular, so I could just throw them together quite quickly, and it would still be like a functional level with a lot of cover and obstacles and routes that you can take. Um, so when you load in, you will have uh, you have your all of these props and props and props. You also have spawn points. So we have a spawn manager here, and inside we have each spawn point. So if you've ever seen like Halo Forge, you remember they have these little spawn markers which are extremely useful. So I've got a version here where you can go through all of there you go. They're all scattered around the map. And the way the spawning works is it uses RPCs, so remote procedure calls. Let me open those up. Let me open up the character script. Characters. So, and it does some it checks for each of the player's positions. Let's go ahead and look into the respawn position. So it goes through each of the players in the server and calculates the one furthest away from all of the other enemy players. Enemy players is important because this has capabilities for team game modes. A lot of effort was put into making sure that this game is as scalable as possible. So extra maps can be added at any point with no changes to the codebase. Extra game modes can be added with no changes to codebase. Extra abilities can be added with no changes. Extra characters can be added, and so on and so forth. At this point, most of the programming in this game is done. It would just be art and game design left before turning it into a bigger prototype to show. That and maybe some audio would be nice. Some of the audio is a bit unfinished. So that's how spawning works. To explain how characters work, so it's an ability shooter. So we do actually essentially take polymorphism to maybe not extreme, but okay, to explain in more detail, this is roughly how the player hierarchy works. So we have the player at the very top, and we could have a player type A, or so this would be the capybara, that has a certain movement code, certain camera code, and that movement could have a different kind of camera, different type of movement to another class that has a class B, whatever that may be, alligator, and the alligator could move completely different. It could swim instead of run. The camera could be very different. Again, it could be top down instead of first person. And we have the same thing with the abilities where they have one script that handles all potential abilities. So this opens up gameplay opportunities where there could be certain abilities that modify other players' abilities, and so on and so forth. So we can see that here in our player. Go into our resources. So we have this capybara that has class capybara that inherits from a player controller. And the player controller has all of the important things that every single class is going to have. So setting ragdolls, respawning, abilities, death and HUD, health, all of that stuff. And with Pun, we call a thing called Pun RPC. It stands for Remote Procedure Call, so that everything's properly networked. So changing health on one person's machine will change on all of everyone's machine. We have also just to help with those RPCs, we have a few serialized variables. So health is serialized, and also whether the player is dead is also serialized. So this just makes sure that if some client drops an RPC somewhere or never receives the correct packets, everything doesn't automatically desync. We have an extra way of knowing whether everything is correct. That also stands for whether the player is shooting. We actually haven't made rotation of up and down remote procedure called because of the way the animations work. So in this game, we have first-person animations as well as third-person animations. So if I go into let me go into the launcher and create a game with the create a sandbox. So in the sandbox, these will be what other players look like, except they'll have guns and will be probably shooting at you. Well, hopefully shooting at you, unless you made a friend in a server, I suppose. But yeah, so the third-person animations are in charge of the ragdolls and also sprinting, running around correctly. Ragdolling is quite a fun feature in the game. There's also a slight damage drop-off, so they might take a couple hits from longer range. But right up close, you'll get ragdolls. You'll get one or two shots, and that'll be it. All of the reloads work as well. You can see other players reload and fire. So that's all correct. They'll health will update in real time. So will their kills, deaths ratio, all of that. And once a player hits a certain threshold for kills, they'll win. So again, I think this is the sandbox, so it's not gonna do anything. But in that case, they'll win. We also have health packs, so if you take a bit of damage, you can potentially get your health back with a health pack. And these will, again, are properly networked and RPC called. So it's not gonna desync. You're gonna be able to see properly when someone's picked it up, when it's available, and no one's gonna have health disparities between clients. I suppose that's a good way of putting it. So that's pretty much how most of the networking works as a super fast rush through the whole thing. It is mostly just an RPC on remote procedure call on taking damage or shooting even. So taking damage is a remote procedure call, as is firing, and abilities. So it'll all work pretty nicely together. It all is tested and viable. Okay, thanks for your time. In the next video, we'll go over what the game looks like and show some gameplay and all of that code in action. Thanks, bye bye.